Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, about a week or so ago, I picked up this Rivett 1020S precision tool room lathe. It's a fairly new machine to me, to the shop. When I got it, I did a little video on this. You can go back and take a look at it if you want to see some information about the lathe. But I talked about the tachometer in here. So this tachometer is built into the headstock and basically tells you the speed that that the spindle's turning at. And the way this particular machine is ran, it's got true variable speed in there. So instead of having a speed selector knob like most lathes, it tells you what the RPM is. With this variable speed, you're just pushing a button to speed it up or slow it down. So you really need some type of indicator to tell you what the speed is, and that's the whole purpose of this. Now, when I got it, this was not working, or at least it was not operational, and I wasn't really sure what was wrong with it at the time. So I've dug into this, pulled it apart, and it turns out it's just a mechanical tachometer. There's just a little piece on the back here that spins up inside the headstock. I've taken the cover off and peeked in here. There's a little piece that basically just goes up against the headstock, or excuse me, the spindle, and it is turning a little piece inside of here at more or less the same speed that the spindle's running. And the whole problem is there's a little shaft that connects between the tachometer and that spindle in there, and that was missing. And I had several viewers out there who were kind enough that had one of these machines that went and pulled their tachometer out for me to see what was in there, to see what was missing, to see what I needed to do. So I'm going to kind of zoom you in here, show you the fix, hopefully, and we're going to get this tachometer back up and going. At least that's the game plan. Let's see what we can do. Well, first off, kind of let's take a peek up in here. I got a flashlight out here where hopefully you can see, but this is where the tachometer fits, and back in the back there's a little hole, and you can just see it back there. And that hole, in the very back of that hole, there's a section where it actually goes from round to square, and it's where a square drive comes out of it. And it turns out all it is a piece of 3/32 square stock that goes in there. So what I was able to do is I purchased a piece of 3/32 key stock and cut it. It's a little bit shorter than 2 inches long. And we're going to put that in there, and hopefully everything's going to work just fine. So here's my piece of key stock. And I've already, before I cut it off, I put it up in there, and you can definitely feel when it goes into that square stock. So I'm taking a pair of needle nose pliers. I'm going to put it in that hole. And all right, I just felt it go in there. We'll push that in real good. Now, when the spindle turns, so does that piece of square stock. And in the back of the tachometer, we have a little piece here. It also has a little groove there for that square stock to fit up on. So now when we put that in there, should be turning it, and we should be getting a direct drive on there. All right, so I just got it in here, and we're going to try this thing out. So look at there. We got a tachometer going, so we're about 6,500 RPMs there. Well, I'm sitting here wondering the way it's kind of bouncing, if we may not have real good, if it may be slipping in there a little bit. I need to play around with that, make sure I've got that all the way up in there, but good sign. I'm going to play around with this. Let me come back in a few minutes. Well, guys, I played around with this, and it's generally working, but I have noticed that we got a little bit of a bounce in there, particularly when we get up at some of the higher speeds. You watch it and it'll all of a sudden start bouncing. There you go. think what's happening here is there's a little friction disc in here that goes up against the spindle that drives this, and I think what's actually happening is it's slipping on the inside. So I need to probably look at that and see if there's something in there that I can take care of to get some of that out of there. But bottom line is the tachometer part is working, and it's probably usable, not like it is, maybe not ideal, but usable. So the other thing that I have done is the piece of glass in this was broken, and I have cut a new piece of glass. And I want to get this cleaned up before I actually put it in there, but used a little circular glass cutter, which they had one out at the museum. I went out, I didn't get it on camera, but it's basically a glass cutter that's it has a little suction cup that sticks to the glass, and it swings around in a circle. So we were able to cut out a piece of round glass. So let me get some Windex. I want to clean this up because it's smudged up right now on the inside and outside, and we'll get that installed. All right, I think we got that clean. This piece of glass just kind of sits up in there like such, and then there's this little piece of metal. Well, if I don't let it fall out and break it, put a little piece of metal here that goes in there, and now that is covered up. We have a nice piece of glass on there. So that was fairly easy fix. I think we have her done. All right, so we got our tachometer in here, we got our glass in here. Turn the machine on, and it's fluctuating a little bit. I'm not crazy about this, but I'm trying to see where we're at compared to what is really going on. So I've got an actual tachometer here. This one here, you put it up on your spindle like such. It's turning this now. When I push this button, you're going to see it start counting. And it's going to do that for a time and then stop. And then according to this, we're running about 470 RPMs right now. But according to our dial, we're running a little less than 300 RPMs. So I'm going to do a couple of tests here. Bump our speed up. That's saying that's about 600 RPMs. That's saying about 600 RPMs. And according to that, about 905 RPMs. So we definitely got something going on here. Again, I think what's happening is that drive in here is slipping, and we're not getting a good accurate read on the tachometer. I think the tachometer is working. I think the problem is up in the headstock where that friction drive is just slipping a little bit in there. So I don't know what to do about that. I'm going to have to do some studying on that to figure out what we need to do. But as of right now, I'm not getting an accurate readout here. I'm going to bump this thing up to the fastest speed it'll go. I just want to see what it actually is doing. All right, that's wide open. And I actually counted it. It went around the dial here 3 times and a little over that. So that's 3,035 RPMs roughly is what that's reading. Or excuse me, 3,000. Yeah, 3,000. A little over 3,000 RPM. So anyway, it's not reading. The gauge here is not reading right, but that kind of gives me an idea of what the max is on this. All right, more work to do. That's probably going to be later on. I was hoping this was going to be an easy fix. And again, I think the tachometer part's working. I think the problem is in the headstock, but we'll worry about that on another day. Well, there you go, guys. I don't know if this is a success or I wouldn't call it a failure, but we're not quite there yet. And like I said, I want to do some more research. If anybody's got these Rivett lathes and have dealt with a problem like this before, you got a brilliant idea, shoot me an email. I'd be interested to hear if you have worked something out to figure out how to fix this. And I haven't, like I said, I've peeked down in this headstock. I had to cover off. The gears and everything look fabulous in this, but I think the problem is on that little friction drive, and we'll play with that later on. So I'm gonna count this part win, part loss, maybe a tie on the battle here, but I'm not giving up yet. We're gonna have round 2 eventually, and hopefully we'll get this thing worked out. That'll be a wrap. Thanks for watching, guys.